Dialogflow is a tool to help automate conversations. Typically, it could be used for three main groups of use cases. It could be businesses that want to talk to their customers and helping automate those conversations. It could be around customer service or commerce. The second is powering connected devices. So this could be connected cars, connected TVs, and being able to intelligently talk to the people that want to use those devices. And the third is connecting employees to their employers and accessing information, business intelligence. We're going to focus most of today on the first set, but a lot of those tools are going to be available and are going to be useful for the second and third group of use cases as well. So, the space is super exciting. We just chose like 4 different statistics to highlight here. There's, of course, much more. 80% of customer interactions could be resolved with well-designed bots. That's mind-boggling statistic if it actually kind of sees itself out. My favorite are the 2 on the bottom. So if you look at the bottom left, a lot of businesses today come to start using bots to reduce costs so they can serve users and their customers more efficiently. But actually in surveys, the interesting thing is customers actually prefer self-serve tools. When they're asked what companies can do to improve customer service, 60% say that self-serve tools is kind of the biggest thing that they can do. And so, there's like all of these customers that are kind of clamoring for better self-serve tools, but they're forced to be talking to agents for simple tasks that don't really justify agents. And that last one, 50% of enterprises will spend more on bots than traditional mobile development. That's also mind-boggling if it actually becomes true by 2021. So with all of that excitement, the kind of problem is today most of the virtual agents that are out there are not very good. If you Google why chatbots fail is the top result that shows up, right? It's pretty crazy. And why is that? So here on the left, you can see an example. There's all of these bots that were built kind of at the peak of the hype. A lot of companies didn't really invest in building them out properly. They're not very intelligent, and it results in conversations that are broken. The good news is we think with Dialogflow, there's a really great opportunity to build bots that are intelligent. And so the way it typically works in terms of architecture, what we see customers deploying, there's all these channels on the left. So it could be text channels, chat on the web, Facebook Messenger, Google Assistant, or it could be digital voice in a mobile app, in a car, in a TV, or phone calls through a phone gateway. They come to Dialogflow, which does the conversation management and the natural language understanding, basically to break down what is the intent and the entities in that natural language. And then Dialogflow sends that structured information to the fulfillment layer. We think Google Cloud is a great place to host that fulfillment layer. It could be on Cloud Functions or Compute Engine, but you could also host it anywhere else. You could put it on-prem or wherever you want. How many people here in the audience were in the session about Dialogflow last year in Google Cloud Next? Okay, a few of you. At Google Cloud Next last year, in our session, I announced that we crossed 150,000 developers for Dialogflow. So this morning, we just announced that there's now over 600,000 developers on the Dialogflow platform, which is crazy, right? This is in just over a year, we crossed that landmark. So it's not only growing, it's accelerating, and we're very, very excited about the momentum. And then when we ask developers why they choose Dialogflow, because there are a lot of other solutions out there for bot development today. It's a very exciting space. The answer we hear time and time again, it's not the bells and whistles. Other solutions out there in the market have things that look good on paper, but at the end of the day, the most important thing that we hear most often from developers is it's just the quality of the natural language. the quality of the natural language understanding and machine learning that Dialogflow uses is head and shoulders above anything else that's out there. And it really makes a difference, right? Because what you want to do is you want to avoid things like that, right? And so it's much more important than anything else you could want in a bot platform. So the exciting thing is most of that is due to the natural language technology that came from the API.ai acquisition that we did a year and a half ago. And so what makes us really, really excited is that we're just starting the journey of making Dialogflow better. And now that it's part of Google, we at Google have actually been solving this problem of natural language understanding for more than a decade in things like Google Search, Google Assistant, Gmail Smart Reply, translation. And we've built all these assets and capabilities like natural language understanding engines, speech recognition, TPUs, and all of these are now available to Dialogflow to build better tools. And so some of these announcements you're going to hear about today are basically a result of this new Google technology becoming available. Putting together this slide kind of hammers the point. Just for me personally, I just realized how much we've done in the last year. It's pretty crazy. If you look at all of the different launches and feature enhancements since our session here last year at Google Cloud Next 17, we've added so much to the product, from built-in analytics to multi-language support, inline code editor, stack driver integration, versioning, and lots more. And today, I'm excited to announce 5 new features that make Dialogflow really well suited to power the enterprise contact center. So what we've heard from a lot of you are there are a few things that are still difficult to manage in chatbot conversations. The first is connecting bots to phones. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. We're going to make it much easier to connect to phones. Second is answering questions that touch the long tail. Building intents is time-consuming. Knowledge connectors are here to help with that. Third is automatic spell correction. So as you guys know, in chats, users often make typos and mistakes. This uses Google technology to solve that. Built-in sentiment analysis we're introducing today that helps you understand when you want to transition to human agents. And last but not least, built-in text-to-speech that also powers our phone gateway, and it's built on WaveNet technology. So I'll zoom through these slides pretty quickly so we can go to the demo, and I'll show you guys how some of these actually look. So our Google Phone Gateway is built on the same technology used by Project Fi and Google Voice and Google Hangouts. It already powers over 20 million phone numbers today. So it's already operating at scale. Now it's available to any Dialogflow user. You can add a phone number to your agent in less than a minute. And the beauty of it, it wraps all of the technology needed to make automated phone calls happen, including speech recognition, natural language understanding, speech synthesis, orchestration. It's all handled by Google Cloud. Knowledge connectors, we're going to go deeper in the demo, so I'm going to skip that. Spelling correction. So this it looks pretty easy, but it's really, really hard. If we had to build something that helps automate spelling correction for bots for Dialogflow, it would have taken us years and years to create something that's reasonably good, and even then, it's hard to get it right. Luckily, because Dialogflow is now part of Google, we were able to use some of the tools that Google uses for other products like Search, and I'm sure you guys have all used spelling correction in Search and in other places, and now Dialogflow can take advantage of those same capabilities. And this applies both to intents, like you can see here on the right, and to entities, like you can see in the middle. So built-in sentiment analysis, a very common concern customers have is, okay, I created a bot, but how do I ensure there's a great end-user experience? Built-in sentiment analysis lets you identify what the query score is for every query that the user sends, and then you can use that in your business logic to decide when you want to switch to human agents. And last but not least, text-to-speech powered by DeepMind's WaveNet gives you the closest to human speech that is possible for a bot. And it's built in both in our phone gateway, but also into Dialogflow, so you can use it for IoT and other uses. The one other cool thing that we just announced this morning is we also added device profiles. So what it does is we actually shape the waveform differently for our speech synthesis depending on which speaker you use. So if you play it on a phone line, we'll produce speech that's optimized for phone. If you play it on a large speaker, we'll produce speech that's suited for a large speaker. Okay, so let's try and see how this all looks like in a demo. So those of you that were in the session last year, you'll remember what we did was we built on stage here, or actually in Moscone, a bot that handles chats for an imaginary Google hardware store. And it has an entity called products, like Chromecast, Google Home, Google Pixel, things like that. And then it has intents, one for service, one for commerce. So if we look at the one for commerce, for example, it requires product address and quantity. And so if I say, I'd like to buy Chromecasts, you can see it identifies the action is buy, the product is Chromecast, but there's no quantity and no address. And now it asks, what address would you like me to ship it to? I can say 3 3rd Street, San Francisco, California. How many units do you want? 5 units. And then it's done. It's ordering 5 Chromecasts, shipping to 3 3rd Street, San Francisco, California. And there's a full JSON. I think this window is not. It's not showing. OK, there it is. There's a full JSON you can use in your fulfillment layer to act on it. So what I'm going to do now is, what if you wanted to not just help people buy stuff, but also answer questions people have about Google products? So let's look for a Chromecast FAQ webpage. And we're just going to choose the first result that's here. Let's take this URL and copy it over. And let's add it as a knowledge connector. So we need to create a knowledge base. Let's call it my knowledge base. And let's create a knowledge item. We call it store FAQ. This is going to be HTML. It's going to be an FAQ. And I'm going to paste in the URL here. And what it's doing now, it's going to this URL. It's downloading this article or FAQ. And it's going through the questions and sorting them out. There, it just finished. So I'll show you guys the detail in a second. But it basically extracted the information. And then the next thing we want to do is add a response. So the default response here is knowledge answer 1. What happens many times with FAQs, though, is a customer is going to ask a question. You may not have the exact same questions in the FAQ. You may have something similar. And there actually might be more than one. There might be 2 or 3 that are similar. So what we'll do is we'll copy it over. Let's choose Facebook Messenger, for example. If a user is on Facebook Messenger, they have the ability to see more than one option. So what we'll do is we'll add cards in a carousel here that show 2 different answers. And we'll use question 1 here. And here it will be question 2 and answer 2. So we're going to show them both the question we matched them with as well as the answer, so they know what we wanted. OK, I'm going to click Save. And now, just so you guys see the full detail, you can see this is what we scanned from that website. All the questions and all the answers, they're all here. And you can even disable some of them if you don't want to cover them in your bot. OK, so let's go back. We'll try it out in a minute, but one other thing I wanted to show you guys is our new phone gateway. So you can see this is a new square we just added this morning, the Dialogflow phone gateway. And what it does, it lets you add a new phone line to your agent in seconds. So all I need to do, I click the Dialogflow phone gateway, and now I choose an area code if I want to. I could also leave this blank, but let's say I want to choose Ohio. I click next. Now I choose one of these numbers. I click create, and that's done. So we now have a phone number in this agent, and it always starts from the welcome intent. So we'll go to the welcome intent in a second. Let's first test our knowledge connectors. So if, for example, let's say there's a question here, how is this different from Apple's AirPlay? So let's try this question in Dialogflow and let's see if it works. It needs a minute to update. Different from AirPlay. Okay, there it is. So you can see it gives the same, it retrieves this whole answer from the article, even though the words I used are a little different from the article. So I didn't use the same words for the question. It knows how to match it. Now, it looks very easy, and for humans, this is a very easy task. Those of you in the audience that have done a little bit of natural language understanding, they know it's actually pretty hard for a computer to understand how to match things like that in natural language, because things sound very similar when you look at it programmatically. So let's look at it in Facebook Messenger, and let's try. Now, there's two different questions here about remote controls. Do I need a separate remote control for volume and other things? Can you use Chromecast with a physical remote control? If I ask, how do remote controls work? It could be matched to either one of those questions. So I think it needs to update. Try that. Okay. So you can see it matches to both of those questions. So it detects that both of them work. Now this is really, really hard because remember, this is the same agent we're using that also has the bot technology. So if I say, I'd like to buy a Chromecast, it needs to both handle the commerce actions that we gave it as well as the FAQs and know when to use each of them. So it's non-trivial, and there's a lot of kind of natural language work that's happening behind the scenes. So let's see it all coming together in our phone demo. So this is the phone number. I'm just gonna try it out. Now, speech recognition demos are always risky, so bear with me here. Hopefully, this is gonna work. I'm gonna try it on speakerphone, which is not the best, but let's see. Okay, so if this works, what it should be doing, it should be going to our welcome intent and then reading what we have in the welcome intent. Let's try.
To the Dialogflow phone demo. How can I help you today? You can order new Google products or request service on existing ones.
What's the difference between Chromecast and Apple AirPlay?
In most cases, AirPlay works by beaming the video or audio directly from an iOS device to the television over Wi-Fi. Your iPhone or iPad must remain
So everything you're hearing right now was not typed into Dialogflow or anything. It was like ingested automatically from a random article that someone wrote on the internet.
Instructions to the television, which then starts streaming straight from the internet. So you're
Thank you.
not responsible for beaming the actual content. If there's an advantage to AirPlay, it's
let's
that
see
it
if
works
the
with most
regular
apps
intent
without
still
developers
works.
needing to do anything to support it. But even this is becoming less of a differentiator as more apps support Chrome.
It's a long answer, yeah. Can I buy a few Google Pixels?
What address would you like me to ship it to?
3 7th Street, New York, New York.
How many units do you want?
7.
Ordering 7 Google Pixel and shipping to 3 7th Street, New York, New York.
So, thank you. So I just want to emphasize, all of that looked really simple to set up, and we were able to do it in less than a minute. Some of those things are you're able to do with other services, but other services that are out there in the market today require you to set up a phone gateway, and that's something that will take you probably a few hours to set up with everything involved, and who knows how much you need to pay for it, and then you need to connect it to sort of the relevant bot service, and then if you want to set up a knowledge service, you need to set that up separately, and then you need to figure out how many kind of gigabytes you need for it, because it's usually like server-based instead of being serverless. And then you need to connect all of these components and do a lot of coding. We basically did all of that with 0 coding in less than a minute, and you have kind of a full automated bot that works on the phone. So we're very excited with this, and we can't wait to see what you guys all do with it. Thank you. So with that, let me invite Tariq.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tariq El-Khatib. I'm the product manager at Ticketmaster within the Global Contact Center and Technology Department. If you don't already know, Ticketmaster sells tickets, a lot of tickets. In 2017, Ticketmaster sold 292 million tickets. 2% of those were over the telephone and through our contact centers. So it's safe to say we receive several million calls per year. So in addition to Ticketmaster is a division of Live Nation Entertainment. Because of this, we receive a large number of calls of all sorts of types of events. So on top of our common questions, our ticket questions such as, I lost my tickets, or how do I print my tickets, we receive a lot of questions that we categorize as general questions, and many of which of those are event and venue specific, such as, where do I find the Will Call box office at Wrigley Field, or how big is the camping area at Paradiso Festival? Before I jump in and showing how we use Dialogflow and knowledge-based connectors integrated into our customer service IVR, I wanted to go through and show you 2 slides that really highlight the impact that an NLP like Dialogflow could make onto our sales IVR. So over here is the transcript of Dan calling the Ticketmaster sales IVR. It's a speech-enabled IVR that was built 10 years ago. At that time, it was top of the line, but the technology then required short phrases and didn't have any intent or entity extraction. So between Dan talking and the system understanding, it takes 10 attempts and 1 misrecognition for the system to understand that Dan wants to buy 2 tickets to see the Chainsmokers in San Francisco on May 5th. Now, seeing how that would look like with a NLP like Dialogflow, this can be completed in 1 to 2 transactions. This is obviously quite an upgrade in customer experience or user experience, but the system also has the flexibility to walk the customer through each prompt if they still prefer to do so. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and jump into our integration with our customer service IVR. I'm going to be showing you 2 calls. This first call is what I'd categorize as a common ticket type call.
A couple of months back, I had bought tickets to the Yankees game, which is happening now in 2 days. I still haven't received my actual tickets.
So the caller is calling saying they haven't received their Yankees tickets. This recording is captured, then encoded, and sent into our intent service. Our intent service houses a lot of our complex business rules. That then connects to our external proxy, which acts as a traffic router between all of our external services, and also translates all of that API traffic into a generic API to feed back into the intent service. So once the call reaches external proxy, it's then sent to Dialogflow. Right here on the right, agent 1, that is our main NLP, and that triggers an intent of tickets not received with the entity of sports team, the Yankees. That information is then sent back through the pipeline to the external proxy, then back to the intent service, where in the intent service there's a rule that's triggered based off of that intent that plays a landmark prompt. Let me see if I can help you find your tickets. And then based off of the entity of the Yankees and the customer's incoming phone number, we're able to tell that this customer had a mobile ticket order and inform them, looks like that your tickets are available right now within your mobile, within your Ticketmaster mobile app. So now I'm going to go ahead and show a more event-specific question.
It's calling to just add a general question. It's trying to get an idea of how big the camping spaces would be, so just the general size at Paradiso Festival.
So the question was, how big is the area of the camping space at Paradiso Festival? Just like call 1, the recording is captured, encoded, and then sent to our intent service and then external proxy, and then it hits that same agent 1, our main NLP. That's where it triggers a intent that we labeled as event and venue specific question, and it also yields the entity of Paradiso Festival. So that information is then routed back through the pipeline, where it triggers a rule in the intent service to tell the external proxy to reprocess the same transcribed text from the first call, but this time based off of the entity of Paradiso to hit an agent that is a event-specific with the knowledge base connector tied to the Paradiso Festival FAQs. So there, the answer is then retrieved from the FAQ site, goes through back the pipeline, and that's where the customer will hear the camping area at Paradiso Festival is 25 by 15 feet, enough to fit one car and one tent. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this looks like in Swagger, the back end. So right here, I've got the encoded recording. I'm going to go ahead and click try it out. And so what's going on now is making that full trip through the intent service to external proxy, Dialogflow, and back. And then here's the result. As we see, there's no error. That's good. The actual transcript of the call, calling just had a general question, and then the intent is correctly identified as event venue specific with the festival name of Paradiso Festival. So also below here, you'll also see the additional data that we appended, additional business logic, like landmark and confirmation prompt, or if there's a specific action that needs to happen based off of this intent type. So the second leg of the call, where it actually goes and hits the knowledge base connector, is something we are currently developing. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and act as a courier pigeon and show what that looks like. So So you can see the question is now returned as a general standing camping site is about 15 to 25 feet, enough for a tent and vehicle. And so it can actually answer these event-specific and venue questions now in our self-service IVR, which previously would need to route to an agent. So to wrap things up, here are our key takeaways and lessons learned. With a wide spectrum of potential ents, you really should consider using multiple agents and knowledge bases. This can really help with intents that are very related, but are still somewhat different. Also, consider creating an external proxy with a generic API for product and feature scalability. So when we built this external proxy, part of my future roadmap was to also include a sentiment analyzer. But that was before I knew Google would include that in Dialogflow. but I at least have the ability to now, any other additional advances in AI, to easily integrate it with our system. Next is conversation matters. Put yourself in the user's shoes and anticipate what the next question is. And especially with IVRs, gotta break the old rigid IVR prompting habits. Those are not conversational, so these services are only as good as the effort and the conversation that you actually put into them. Finally, think big with AI. Every day we see new advances in the AI space. For example, looking at the phone connectors that was just announced today, in theory, we could utilize those to create a unique IVR for every major event that we have, or even every major venue. So with based on your everyday business, you should really be evaluating how these new AI advances really can make a difference to your business. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Akash from Marks & Spencer's.
Hello, everyone. I'm Akash Palmer. I'm the enterprise architect at Marks & Spencer. Anyone here who's never heard of Marks & Spencer? Excellent. That's slide for you. Established in 1884, we have 1,500 stores, and we have 81,000 employees, 32 million customers across the world. It's one of the most recognized brand, and it's a very popular British household name. And just to emphasize how important Marks & Spencer is to its customers, 1 in 3 women in the UK buy their bras from M&S, and we sell 45 of them every minute. In terms of our contact center, we take about 15 million interactions over voice, chat, and email, and that's handled by 1,500 advisors and by our store staff as well. So our leadership team gave us a challenge where we were asked to understand our customers better, we were asked to provide more self-service options, and we were also asked to save cost. And to achieve that, the first thing we had to do was to get rid of our rigid DTMF IVRs, and we replaced that with a natural language-based solution, which would ask a very open-ended question like, how may we help you? The response back from the customers was digested into Dialogflow, which would then come back with an actionable intent. This solution, it's not a deep solution going into the depths of Dialogflow, which is our aspiration in the future, but it is a solution which was implemented widely across our organization. And this platform would take over 12 million calls over the next 12 months. What this did was it freed up around 100 employees who were just busy taking calls and moving the calls around to actually not handle those calls and be on the shop floor and actually work with the customers who are walking in and out of our shops. As you can see on the side, my boss calls it the stairway to our customer service heaven. We are still on step 2, so we have a long way to go. Quick view of our current solution. What I'll do is I'll try and make a call just to give you an experience of what it sounds like.
Welcome to M&S. Just so you know, we record our calls to help with training. So that we can get you to the best person to help, please can you tell us in a few words why you are calling today?
I want to buy some blue shirts.
We'd really like to know what you think of the service you received today.
So the call, just going to the flow then, what happened here was I made a call. It went into the Twilio platform, which answered the call, and it then invoked our application, which is in our secure environment. The application said, how may we help you? The customer said, I want to buy some blue shirts. It then used Google Speech API to convert the speech into text. That text was handed back to our application, which then sent it across to Dialogflow. Dialogflow came back with an intent, and we then used that intent to route the call to our contact center. So that's how it looks like today. The partnership between Twilio and Dialogflow is going to make this much simpler. I wish they had this partnership 6 to 8 months ago. It would have made my life much easier, but it's now here, and I think it's a very, very great opportunity. So what happens now is Twilio would integrate directly with Dialogflow, so rather than just coming back with the utterance or the text, it'll actually come back with an intent. And then the organizations can act on that intent very, very quickly. So it will, A, make things faster, and B, it'll help experiment quicker as well. So it's a very, very exciting opportunity, this partnership between Dialogflow and Twilio. This is our current dashboard, how it looks like. Let me see if I can flip across to the live dashboard, and hopefully we'll find the call which I just made. So basically the dashboard, it's a quick view on how many calls we are taking, what are our top 10 intents, what the date is today. Oh, my blue shirts, they're there. So the top call, that's my call, so I want to buy some blue shirts. So very clearly you can see calls come in. The utterance was transcribed very, very accurately by Google Speech API. Went to Dialogflow. Dialogflow said it's an order call. And then based on that, we said we're going to send it to the sales team so that they can take the order. Two key things which I'll take away, or which we have achieved. A, tool like Dialogflow was so simple to be used by the business users. So from day one, they were the one who built it, trained the agent, and they did it within days, and we achieve now 90% accuracy on our intent. The second benefit, which we didn't even realize we'll get at the start of this journey, was the fact that we could now ask the advisors not to fill in any reason for contact. Rather than the advisor telling us what they think the call was all about, we actually let the customer intent do that. So it's what the customer wants, and they have said it in their own words, and we then use that as our reason for contact. And it's saved like 10 seconds from every call in AHT. So we have some big plans with Dialogflow, so now we want to start going deeper. First thing we want to try and achieve is an end-to-end conversational order fulfillment journey. So identify the customers, integrate to the back end, and also take payments. So that's a big aspiration of ours. We also want to use it for any kind of appointment booking system. So we get a lot of calls around buffeting appointments in our stores. So we want to automate that. We want to also go out and use home devices where we have a dine-in for £10 offer in M&S, which is very, very popular. So Google Home, Alexa can be used by the customers to find out whether we have an offer ongoing. If yes, what's this all about? And also some complex journeys like flower ordering, which is, again, a very big business for M&S, but a complex journey because there could be many reasons for which you'll be ordering flowers, happy, sad, so sentiments gets involved. So that's a journey we want to kind of go after as well. Key challenges. So one challenge which we had was we had to integrate Dialogflow separately, and now that would go away with the partnership between Dialogflow and Twilio. So that's a step in the right direction. Experiment rapidly, but remember, there is no prize if you can't productionize. It's all great to have all these tools and technology, but then if we can't productionize them and send customer calls through it, it's of no use. We need to also be aware of our internal governance challenges. So it took us like 5 weeks to get our first MVP, but it took us 5 months to productionize it. So procurement, legal, finance, you need to make sure you take them on the journey from the very start, otherwise you'll be hitting lots of blockers. To have a lean team with the right attitude. So I think my boss, Chris McGraw, who's in the audience, takes the phrase, learn from your mistakes, very, very seriously. And he gets upset if we don't make 5 mistakes every week. So that's what we do. We make mistakes, and we learn from our mistakes, and it has worked for us so far. Get the right technology partners. We had that in Twilio and in Google. Twilio was at every step with us in our initial implementation. It helped us recognize the potential of this platform, and we thank them for that. The accuracy of Google Speech API, the accuracy of Dialogflow gave us confidence to go back to the business and tell them, this is something which is definitely going to work. It's not a question. If we know it's going to work, and we went there with total confidence. Partners where we don't have internal resources, so we didn't have a development team, but we wanted to move fast. So we partnered with a company called Develop, whose CEO, Tom Mullen, is in the audience as well. So the key message there is make sure you have the right team behind you when you set off on this journey. And also, the technology landscape is changing so fast. You have to make sure that it's your architecture, your applications are open to that. New things are coming in every day, and we have to adapt to it very, very quickly as well. So just to conclude, can Dialogflow virtual agents help contact centers? We at Marks & Spencer are definitely in the yes camp. Thank you. I pass it on to Sharad now.
Thanks, Akash. Hey, everyone. So let me get a quick show of hands. How many of you have been to a Home Depot before? Awesome. Yeah, so in case you weren't aware, we are the world's largest home improvement retailer. We have over 400,000 associates and over 2,000 stores across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And we also have one of the world's largest e-commerce websites. So today, what I'm going to do, by the way, my name is Jared Moore. I'm from the Voice and Conversational Search team at Home Depot. And we're going to show you a new feature that's available in our Home Depot app. Cool. All right, so now what I'm showing you here is our beta app, and I actually just got word that this feature is live on our Android app, and it's going to be live pretty soon on our iOS app. So if y'all don't have it already, go ahead, download the latest update of our app, and give it a try after the talk. So what we developed is a new version of voice search. So now you can go hit the microphone button. I'm looking for a hammer. Oh, all right. And it still worked. You see, Dialogflow was able to parse out that what I'm actually looking for is a hammer. We don't actually want to search for I'm looking for a hammer and then go and put that into the search box for us. And in the future, we're also going to use Dialogflow to have an audio response confirming to the user that what we're searching for is actually what they want to look for. Cool, so how do we do it? So we designed a 5-layer architecture to enable this, and the first layer is pretty simple, it's just a client. So anything that a customer or associate is gonna talk to. The clients then connect to a proxy layer. So if we wanna have an optional layer to do authentication, then we add it there. And then the real intelligence is when we go to the intent layer. This is Dialogflow, and it provides the automatic speech recognition, as you saw, intent matching, as well as in the future, TTS. Dialogflow then goes to our routing layer, and what we noticed was if I say I'm looking for a hammer to my mobile phone, on the desktop site, on a Google Home, no matter what, I'm looking for something. The way that you respond to me might be different depending on what channel I'm talking to, but no matter what, it's the same intent. So what we do is we route everything to a routing layer and then route based on where the client is. So if you were talking to the desktop site, we'll get the response specifically for the desktop backend, right? So in our example, we showed you the page for hammers, but if you were on a Google Home, then we couldn't actually show you a page, so we'd have a different response for that case, and we want to be able to handle that here. All right, so if I had to narrow this down into 3 main things that you should focus on, first of all, and like I just said, separate your actions from intents. You're really going to see that intents are pretty much going to be the same no matter where you're talking to. If you want to find something, you're going to say it the same way no matter what you're talking to, but the way you want to be responded to could change. The next one is definitely design your architecture for every use case. And from what you could see in my previous slides, our architecture can be easily expanded to add more and more clients. And that's something that we wanted to be able to do so that we weren't stuck a couple months down the road when we had some new channel we wanted to add, and then we had to completely re-architect our solution in order to support it. And then the last point is share code between teams. So if you look at our last layer, the action layer, we actually export all of our code. It's all in Google Cloud Functions, so it's all in Node. We export all of our code to an internal NPM repository, and then we can just have different channels can just import that code, add 3 lines of code to their channel, and then they can have the exact same experience in 2 different channels. So that's one big takeaway, and that's going to save everybody a whole lot of time, right? So where are we going next? First of all, we want to see what we can do with knowledge connectors. I had a little bit of time to play around with it myself, and it seemed very, very easy and very quick to set up. So we want to see what we can do to productionize that in the future. And we also want to look into enabling new intents, like where's my order, add to shopping list, or finding products inside of a store. And we're also looking into new channels, like the IVR system and also the Google Home.